For Ferris Cartoony, 183, and sets a blistering new track record. GRIDLIFE Track Battle is back, ready to rip this afternoon at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Kramer for GRIDLIFE Midsummer Meet, Saturday afternoon action from Mid-Ohio. Greg, welcome back. This is our afternoon stretch. 2 track battle events, 2 more GLTC races, but first up, Track Battle Group A.
Yeah, and this is going to be so compelling because we just got, it had been really sunny for just a little while. Clouds have moved in, no moisture, but what that does is it cools the track, cools the air a little bit, and sometimes when you get in the heat of the day, you lose a little bit of efficiency by the cars and the tires. Well, we can feel that temperature dropping a little bit. I think we could see a few more records broken. We've had a few broken already this week.
A couple have broken. We've got a sheet in front of us with orange marker on it telling us which ones have been broken, which ones haven't. We've seen a couple fall in Club TR, in Street Modified, and more. Unlimited is still a work in progress. There's Ferris Cartoony and James Houghton and Chris Boersma waiting on the grid to launch here. Let's take a quick look at our track map, though, and get an idea for what we're doing here today. 2.26 miles, 13 corners, Greg. It's a fast racetrack. A lot of undulation in the middle parts of the racetrack. But as you said yesterday, it's quick, abrupt changes in elevation, not massive deltas in terms of your amplitude over the course of the entire lap.
Well, exactly. And what that means when you're talking about high horsepower track battle cars, you need to be gentle over the those brows. A lot of those rises and falls come right at apexes, so you really need to get the car in the right direction and be able to modulate the throttle. But the problem is a lot of these turns are blind turn-ins, so you're really entering them in these cars at some pretty serious speed on just sheer commitment and getting the car around. And the key is also that last set of corners, 12 and 13, turn 12, when you're starting your fast lap, you want to diamond that corner quite a bit to get it straightened out, then drive the normal fast racing line through it to complete your lap. And but as you can see, other than that run from 1 to 2 up into the keyhole and then from 2 to 4, rest of this track really technical, really serpentine, and really fun.
It is fun. It's a great racetrack. It's one of the classic American road courses that, kind of built in that 1950s to late 1960s era. Tracks like Mission Raceway Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Road America popping up all over the country. And the Midwest really is kind of a hot area for racing in general. Of course, Midwest is IndyCar's home, and over several decades, the Midwest has a lot of really important racetracks. Brainerd in Minnesota as well. So there's lots of racetracks very important to the North American road racing history. And this is one of them, and one of the tracks that hasn't really fundamentally changed in the 60 or 70 years that it's been around.
That's true. The track layout here is completely unaltered, and which makes it one of those truly historic tracks, as you mentioned. Hasn't been paved in a while, which means that there's lots of different tarmac changes and lots of different grip levels out there, which keeps the drivers on their toes just a bit as well. But it is a true driver's track, and by that, a technical track that only has one really decently long straight means, you don't have to, if you're a really good driver, you don't have to drop $100,000 on an engine program, because you can make a difference on this track, as opposed to some tracks where it's all long straights, and if you don't have motor, no matter how good you are, you're going to be suffering a little bit. This is a driver's track, and they love coming here.
Speaking of motor, though,
yeah,
Faris Khartoumy's got a big one and a powerful one, and he's sitting on the top end of grid, waiting to be released here in about a minute for GRIDLIFE Track Battle Group A. We'll have 3 groups of track battle that we'll stream. We'll step away for a brief moment before our GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, our 3rd race of the weekend. We'll have about a 2-hour break and be with you again later this afternoon for one more run of track battle and GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. Before we finish out our stream this weekend, there will be on-track action tomorrow that will not be live streamed, so if you're in the area, make sure you get a spectator ticket and come on out to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Our next event in 2 weeks in Lakeville, Connecticut for GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends Festival. It'll be August 19th to 20th. Some really cool cars will be coming for a concourse-style event, and we'll have GLTC, Time Attack, and GRIDLIFE Drift there, so it'll be a lot of fun for everybody involved. After that, it'll be a trip to Boulder, or actually not Boulder, where are we going? Fountain, Colorado Springs,
yep.
And that'll be our Alpine Horizon Festival, followed by our GRIDLIFE Track Battle Finals, with our season championship winners getting crowned in early October at Heartland Park. Cars rolling off now. Faris Khartoumy again with the clouds coming over the racetrack. You mentioned it. Can bring that track temperature down, and this is not that much warmer than this morning, so maybe this is a good session. And Faris now has had a little experience on track in dry conditions, so he can push that much harder.
Well, and the other thing that happens, we talk about how the cooler temperatures, and if it's humid where there's even more oxygen packed into the air, how engines love it, right? So does aero. The more densely packed that air is, the more effective the aero package on the car becomes, sometimes almost to a detriment, where you suddenly get a lot more aero load, and if you don't have a powerful car, you can't drive through it. But if you do have a lot of power in the car, then that aero becomes ever more effective. And the other thing to always consider is, if we'd been just in baking sun and it had been up in the upper 80s and the like, that track surface then tends to be really hot. And when you get just an inch or two above track surface level, where those splitters are and where the diffusers are, when it gets that hot, it thins that air out. So suddenly you're getting a much more of an aero load from that rear wing, because it's farther off of the track where it's a little bit cooler, and you lose some of the efficacy of the aero download of the track. So that's all things that these guys have to be thinking about here as they come out. I think these conditions are going to be superb for this guy, Faris Khartoumy. And we talked about, tons of power. You still have to be able to wheel it and control it, and boy, does he.
Here's a great example of Time Attack cars. We've got a Corvette leading. Behind him, we have an all-wheel drive Evo Then behind him, we have some crazy roided out RX-8 behind him. Behind that's an S2000. We've got a Honda Civic. There's cars from every make, model, year, and generation you can think of, all in, some in the same class, some in different classes. We have 7 competition classes. They are color-coded on our timing and scoring that you'll see here shortly. Our red colored drivers are the unlimited category cars. Those are going for the overall track records here this weekend. Orange is our track modified class, basically a step down from unlimited, a couple more rules there. Street modified is teal. Those are street cars that are beefed up a little bit. Street GT is your big, heavy American muscle. Street, more like a lot of Subarus and Evos and that sort of thing. Falcon Club TR, smaller engines, high aero, engine swaps allowed, and of course, Sunday Cup. That's kind of your spec category as far as things go.
All entertaining. A lot of them, the Falcon Sunday Cup, a really great bang for the buck. But if you have the budget, Unlimited is pretty spectacular. And Ferris Khartoumi, that first car coming out of the keyhole right now, he likes to go on his first lap. And watch the speed, folks. If you've been watching throughout the day in some of the other classes, just look at the pace that he has down that back straight.
Yeah, down into turn 4, be nearing 170. On the brakes, down a couple gears. Sequential transmission in this car as well, so just pop, pop, pop through the gears. And then through madness, down the hill. Looks nicely controlled so far. A little wiggle, but it's just so nicely composed. At this point, this car isn't going to do anything that Ferris doesn't know it's going to do.
Exactly.
He's experienced in it. He's experienced at this racetrack. He's just getting dialed in.
Yeah, and he really just loves flogging this car. And, you know, when you're dealing with over 1,000 horsepower and the speeds, you know, for one lap, that can be daunting to some. For Ferris, it's just lip-smackingly tantalizing.
Through
Watch
turn.
him. Yeah, now here he shouldn't be diamonding it at all. He should be driving the normal quick race line. And he's way out there. That tells me he's either pitting or he's really going to start his flyer.
Yeah, he might be on those. He mentioned he's got Michelin slicks, Michelin hard compound slicks. So he might be trying to warm those things up a little bit. Now he's on throttle that time.
Yep.
That was slow for him, a 130, 194. So he's going to go quicker this time around. And Dallas Reed behind it, a 132.49. And how about Dewey DeWitt up to a 130.177 in street mod? That's not a bad time at all for the all-wheel drive category. Not quite the track record, but knocking on the door, only a couple hundredths away for Eric Dewey DeWitt.
And I'm not sure that this is yet the flyer for Khartoumi, because when he went through turn 1, he gave up a lot of ground at the exit. But he mentioned it takes the Michelins a little bit longer to get into their operating window, but then they'll run a few laps.
Yeah, he's off pace now. I think he's still working heat into them. These tires do look different. I think they've got some sidewall branding on them that is different from what I recall seeing earlier in the weekend. So this should be his other set of tires. More cars coming across the line. Cody Hunt, Josh Halka in their respective classes leading the way. Actually, Halka, I think, is second to Ben Lynn right now, who broke a track record in street all-wheel drive this morning.
And DeWitt right now, that 130.177 is only, 5/100ths off of the track record that was set here in the summer of 2020. So if he can put one more lap in and find just a blink of time, he'll be there.
There's Grant Walker in the number 460. This is what's left of a Mazda Miata. Wow, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, question for you.
Yep.
I see those headlights popping up into the braking zones. Do you think he's trying to use that to slow the car down?
Well, he might be. And also, that I thought those were ducts for the turbos. But what it might be, that might be brake ducts. So he maybe they pop up to cool the brakes.
I've never seen the car do this before.
Me either.
I've seen Grant a lot of times, but earlier this weekend he was running with those things wide open. So unless he's trying something different, or it's been doing it for a while, we just haven't noticed, as Moss gives a point by there. What an interesting strategy that would be.
Absolutely.
Now, I wonder if there's an active aero rule.
Yeah, kind of like a motorcycle rider on a road course when they pop up right before the turn to use their body to help cool or slow down.
So now he's going to cool down. He's got those headlights open. This weekend I got to keep my close eye on that car, because that is a fascinating decision if that's what he's doing. There's Nick Kors, the number 79. That is a street modified car. Here's a fun story. My first ever grid life back in 2019. I was driving on Interstate 90, driving from Rochester, New York to Gingerman Raceway. I passed this car getting loaded on a trailer on the side of the interstate. I don't remember what the reason was, but he drove it to the racetrack at least part of the way, then
Wow.
got it on a trailer and brought it the rest of the way. So that happened, and that's why street modified, they're still street legal cars. The rule in this class essentially boils down to the ice cream test. If you can get in your car and legally drive and go get an ice cream, fair game.
You're good. Okay.
I mean, there's more rules than that, but
Right,
that's the fun one.
That's the gist of it.
Yes.
Is to be very street legal.
Khartoumi just ran a 124.421, so that's a pickup for him, but not a record.
Yeah, he had a 23.5 this morning. So, and the record is a 21.7. So he needs to find a bit more here. And it may, like I said, he had talked about the Michelins have more longevity, but it takes him longer to come in. If he's on them, he's just taking his time, making sure he's ready to go. My only concern is that car designed for that one flyer, and then it tends to run pretty warm. So he may run afoul of that just a little bit.
Here's Grant Walker again into turn one. Headlights open in the braking zones, closed when he gets back on throttle. What a fascinating idea.
That is interesting, yeah.
And again, I know in Unlimited there's no active aero rule. I don't know about track mod. I would be surprised if it wasn't allowed. I think track mod is that step where you can really get pretty creative, as you can clearly see. But headlights close and then down the straightaway again.
Well, if it was feeding the turbos, you'd think they'd be open, right? So my guess is it's a brake cooling.
Into the braking zone, headlights open. That is so cool, Greg.
That is.
Oh, that is neat. But into turn 5 now, into madness. And it's every time he jumps on the brakes. If he was doing that manually, that would be a big distraction. Wow, big slide through 5. Left some tire marks there.
They sure did. Lit him up.
I wonder if he just has the switch wired directly to the brake pedal.
That could be. Yeah.
What a great idea that is.
Yep. Go to the brakes, you get that little bit of aero braking from those things popping up, and also you get the air ramming down to keep the brakes from overheating. Yep, there it happens again. This is interesting.
Greg, there's times I really enjoy Time Attack, and this is one of them, because you see the ingenuity here.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen a lot of active aero features. I've never seen pop-up headlights wired to the brake pedal before. That's got to be what's happening.
That's got to be. It's the only thing that really makes sense.
That time through, 133.43 doesn't pick up that time. Or maybe when he's just off throttle, maybe.
Yeah.
Because that time he's just coasting through turn 1 at this stage. But really, really interesting stuff. Well, again, he's chasing a record that is unlikely to be beaten because Ferris ran a 25.5 here last year. A yellow flag right now on the front straightaway. And oops, that's Ferris Khartoumi. I think that's out of turn 1. Well, send it all the way, right? Oh, okay. So this happened at Midwest as well, when he was allowed to run through turn 1 and then reverse back into the pit lane. I don't know if that's what he's doing now. It looks like he's actually stopped now. But at Midwest, they did allow him to run at the end of the session and then turn back around and go back in. But I don't think that's happening. Checkered flag here for Group A. So.
Yeah, and here, the last thing you want to be doing is going counter course.
Yeah,
that's a blind high-speed turn there. But I just wonder if he was, kept building speed, but it just overheated on him.
Yeah, could be.
There's a big investment in that power plant, so you don't want to let that go.
Really is. So not able to knock on the door of his record quite yet this weekend. But he's if he just gets one good clean lap with the right tire and the right conditions, I think he can get there. But he really set the bar high last year, didn't he? That just gives you context. One car we didn't see go on track is James Houghton in the Evo. He was gridded up behind Khartoumi but didn't roll out. And he was set to go out in Group A this run, so he didn't. Oh, he is out on the track, actually. He did trip the timing loop at least once down in 17th.
Okay, yep.
But he has not completed a lap yet.
So he must have done an out and then back into the pit lane.
Either way, Group A is complete. If you're just joined us, Time Attack Group A just finished. Group B is up next. Group C will follow. Take a very short break before GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 3 at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock on the East Coast. Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Kramer for the 6th competition round of 2022. Get a little out of kilter because we have a couple special events here and there, but we also had an event in Willow Springs, California early in the season for the track battle cars and around at Circuit of the Americas for the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup cars. So despite each of those products not going to the other event, we have the same number of rounds total. That worked out mathematically. Made it easy. Not always the case. And what's left is Lime Rock Park. We've got Pikes Peak International Raceway. Then we've got our season finale at Heartland Park in Topeka, Kansas, and then one other additional event. And if you've just been out of the loop a little bit, we already announced an event at Pittsburgh International Race Complex in mid-October, October 21st through 23rd at Pittsburgh International Race Complex. That will be our new endurance-style rule set. That'll be a multi-class endurance racing series that will feature 3 classes, GLTC, Sunday Club, which is Sunday Cup cars with roll cages, and then a class that'll kind of land in the middle of those 2 rule sets. The rule set is planned to be released sometime next week. I'm not going to hold Adam to that, but sometime next week.
Right.
But again, if you already have a Touring Cup car, you're good. You already have a Sunday Cup car, put a roll cage in and a couple other safety bits, you're ready to roll. The format will be a sprint race and an endurance race each day on the weekend. It'll be an event completely separate from our normal Grid Life rounds, and something we hope to do more next year.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, multi-class and running an endurance race with a qualifying race to establish that grid, I think is brilliant. And one of the things multi-class racing, we love what we see in the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup series. But taking that as the lead class for a multi-class endurance racing program, I think is great, because you add those other 2 classes, and that high-speed checkers turns into high-speed chess. And
right.
There's so much that you have to be dealing with strategically in a multi-class endurance race that makes it really fun.
And we're already knocking on the door of running out of space for GLTC competitors at the tracks we go to. We have a 50-car grid here this weekend. We're at the point where it's just too many cars. So giving drivers a place to go to, another place to escape. Hey, I like racing endurance more. All right, well, now we've got a place for you, and you can run the same rule set. So if you want to do a Touring Cup race on a normal race weekend, you can. Same with the Sunday Club category. The rules next year will reflect the ability to swap between Sunday Cup and Sunday Club without invalidating your entry in either. So a Sunday Cup car that is built for time attack can compete in the endurance series and vice versa. And that just gives you the versatility to get any kind of experience that you want, whether it's endurance, whether it's time attack, whether it's sprint racing, all of the above you can do.
And, if you obviously love the, 1 lap flyer, cool down, then cinch them up and go for another lap, that time attack thing is where you want to be. But if you have aspirations for doing some racing, what an opportunity to take your Sunday Cup time attack car, run in this endurance series, get a lot of track time with a lot of traffic, then work your way up through that middle class and then up to the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup class in the endurance program. And then you could say, all right, now I want to try doing the championship sprint races, because that is when it's fast and furious.
It certainly is. So Ferris Khartoumi getting on the hook here to head back into the paddock area. We'll get set for Group B here shortly. But, Greg, we've seen a lot of track records fall already this weekend. The conditions have been good in track battle time attack, but this is probably prime conditions again, as we saw this morning. Maybe a little cooler today, but more experience on the weekend for the drivers at this stage, and they've worked out the quirks in their cars at this point. So we should see some more fall. We're getting into Group B now, which is typically, 5th through 8th in most of the classes, and kind of the top runners of Falcon Club TR, which has been a hot battle all season. Yeah,
that has been really, really strong. And in that category, you were talking about Ben Thorne, and he broke a record a little bit earlier today that Grant Davison had held. And there's certainly potential, because there's a couple of guys really close to him that might be able to, if Ben can't break his own record again, others can step up.
Yeah, Ben Thorne, we saw him go for that wild slide over turn 9 a couple of times. Again, running with Team Valvoline there and the Gears and Gasoline YouTube channel. Ben is an incredibly talented race car driver, a good wrench, and also a very talented YouTuber. So we've got him and his friend and partner in crime at Gears and Gasoline. That's Ben Lynn. So both Bens are here this weekend competing. But, again, Ben Thorne at the pointy end of the class. Grant and Dana Basinski have some work to do. Dana especially. He was the fastest at Autobahn, but that just goes to show you how close the class is. Depending on what track you go to, the advantage slips the other way.
Yeah, and thus far, I mean, the second quick guy is the guy who held that record, Grant Davison, in that category right now. So, and Grant, not that far off of it by any stretch. He just hasn't been able to. I mean, he's underneath his old record time comfortably. It's just that Ben upped him just a little bit here. So that means, Grant now wants to dig deep and reclaim that record, and that's what makes this so fun.
Yeah, Dana's got some new front aero on his car this week as well, a new splitter assembly on his Subaru BRZ that's got a K-swap in it from ASM. And as Ferris gets on the hook and rolls back into the paddock, we should be set for Group B here very, very shortly. Group B, Group C, we'll take a very short break, and then it'll be GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Race 3 at the end of this stream, and then we'll have another about a 2-hour break. Be back with you around 4:30 Eastern time for our last stint of the day. More track battle and touring cup to round out the weekend. And with Ferris heading back into the paddock, we should allow the grid to roll the cars from the turn 13 area all the way down pit lane and out the other side. So Group B, right at the pointy end of it, is going to be one of our Street GT competitors, Alex Arteyet. Alex Westergaard in Street Mod will be following him. Jacob Bessemer in the 580 Camaro. He'll roll off behind him, followed by Brandon Hodge, or Bronson McNamer, Brandon Hodge. Oh, it is Brandon Hodge. Then Scott Nick, Ben Thorne, Kubayek, Davidson, Kuhn, Simpkins, and Evan Weeder with the next drivers in that group, and Dana Basinski going out as well with them. And there they roll right now.
All right, this is should be a good one too, and I love this is the category where that, as you pointed out, the Club TR guys start to get an opportunity to get after it, and for them it's got to be interesting because they're out there with cars. There's some track mods, there's even an unlimited or two that are out there, and so it gives them an opportunity to run up against some of those cars. And believe me, these guys behind the wheel, Thorne, Davison, and Evan Wider and Basinski, those guys, they're all really good shoes.
There's the 66 of Ben Thorne.
Mr. Excitement.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't think he'd be thrilled to learn that he was that sideways. I'm sure he knew it in the car, but we saw a great angle of it heading up over turn 9, getting some heat in the tires. Yep.
That was the amazing thing.
There's Grant Davidson. You see the Integra heading up towards the keyhole as well. So all the Club TR drivers will be running together at the same time, so we'll try to bounce around to a few of them. One is, of course, the number 66, the Valvoline Honda Civic. The other, Grant Davidson in the purple and white and blue Acura Integra. And then that's the Acuity logos on the side of that car. Then Dana Basinski, the orange BRZ. All three of those runners are your podium contenders this weekend. I don't think anyone else is going to be able to sneak up in there. There's a few knocking on the door. We have no Fez Bobber this weekend in the GR86, but we do have Peter Granberg in another K-Swamp BRZ that could get up there if the conditions are right for him.
The guy that I'm keeping an eye on is Evan Weeder.
Of course.
A Wider. I mean, he ran the third quick time in the previous session at a 36.5. That's pretty quick.
It is quick, and Evan is out there on track as well. Teammates with Grant Davidson from the Acuity camp, so they kind of share resources a little bit, different chassis, but not that different. Both front drive, relatively lightweight, but both wickedly fast in their own right. And again, kind of a lazy drive up to the start-finish line, trying not to get things too hot. Just get a little bit of heat in the brakes and the tires, but you don't want to spend a lot of time on throttle here. Save the engine temperature for the lap that you're running hot.
Yeah, that's the key, is preserve it and unleash it when it's ready.
Unleash we shall.
There it is, as if on cue. I love that.
Green flag now, and the 66 of Ben Thorne. Here he comes across the start-finish line to start his flying lap. He's in the gray on the timing and scoring, in 6th right now on the start of a flying lap. Through turn 1, right out to the edge of the road, and up towards the keyhole.
And you can see even on that run from the exit of 1 to the keyhole, it undulates, doesn't it? All the way up there. You climb into the keyhole and fall out of it on the exit. And so you have a real tendency to understeer on the exit of the keyhole. So you're going on to the longest straight, and you've got to be patient. Not oftentimes a racer's forte. This
car tends to lift a couple tires in the air, rear tires, when it gets into the corners hard. We'll watch if he does that at turn 4. And Ben Thorne on the binders into turn 4 at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Nice clean line. Didn't get a lot of curb through there. We don't really necessarily want a lot of curb at 4. Up over the crest at 5. It looks nicely sorted this time.
It does. Now, he's coming up to his old nemesis corner, 8 transitioning into 9. And his slides happened before he ever, got to 9.
Oh, little bit of bobble on entry. There's that rear tire picking up off the ground over the crest. Much cleaner, though, that time.
Yes.
Told you the rear tire in the air.
You bet.
He only needs 3 of them.
Well, of course. It's a front-wheel drive car, and you get everything up front. You just want that back end of that car to follow it around is basically all you're looking for it to do.
Through the carousel for Ben Thorne. So far this weekend, he's been the fastest in Falcon Club TR at a 35.69. That time through, 35.959. So not quicker, but we'll see if he does it again on a second lap, potentially. towards the keyhole. He might have a little bit of a slipstream from that big Corvette in front of him. Grant Davidson at a 136, 142. That's not a bad lap for Grant. He has gone quicker, though, this weekend.
And you're right about that little bit of a draft off of that vet. Then the issue becomes when they get back into the really twisty bits of this track is that vet able to not hold him up, as that car is going to be light and agile through there. The vet, a lot of power, but heavy, a little bit more cumbersome in the twisty bit sometimes. So it depends on how well it's wheeled at this point.
Into turn 4. Thorne carried a lot of speed on entry there. And very neat and tidy through this section in particular. But it's been that 8 to 9 transition where we see the instability in this car.
Yep. If he can stay with it, this first part of the lap looks really clean and yet quick. So this is the telltale right here.
Turns in.
A little rotation there. You can see it, but he used it to really good effect.
Yeah, that was a good rotation,
yes.
I think.
It wasn't the massive oversteer that we'd seen from him previously. So this could be a good one here.
Alex Artea at big curb hop. Alex Westergaard sideways in the Street Mod 35. Here comes Ben Thorne. Now he's got that traffic right in front of him. Is it going to hold him up across the line for Thorne? Needs to beat a 135.6. And across the line, no improvement that time. Here comes Davidson. Will he go faster?
I think Thorne definitely got held up.
Yeah, right at the end of the lap, too.
Oh, Davidson did 35.5.
And that will reset the record by a
boom,
tenth.
just like that.
All right, Grant Davidson, new track record holder in front-wheel drive and Falcon Club TR. So Ben Thorne is off throttle. Davidson is still rolling. Is Dana Basinski on track? I think he is. So now Dana Basinski heading into the keyhole right now. There he is. He's our third place runner right now in this session. And coming up off the keyhole towards turn 3, towards that race start line. And Basinski was our top finisher in Falcon Club TR at Autobahn Country Club. And is in the mix this weekend here. But he's about a second back from where he needs to be if he wants to be beating these guys this weekend. And I don't know what it is. We talk about front drive versus rear drive. You would think Basinski would have an advantage here. Here he is. But it doesn't seem like this weekend he's got the top car. But we'll see if he's got the top drive behind him this weekend. And Evan Weeder right behind him in the 531 Acuity Civic. So a couple Falcon Club TR competitors and Dana getting after it. Another car that's seen various levels of development and lots of changes. And that splitter on the front of the car is new this weekend. And through Thunder Valley. Looking neat and tidy. No, that's not grass on the nose of the car. That's a graphic. It's got like a, almost like the kids' carpet city graphic on it that you'd play with Matchbox cars when you were little or something of the sort. And through turn 12 and 13 for Dana Basinski. Will Dana improve this time through? Across the line for him. 136.338 is the best he's done. He will not improve. Don't think Weeder picked up either. But Dana's still getting after it here, out to the edge at turn 1.
Well, it's a matter of now getting that clean lap in if he has that opportunity. There's traffic up in front. It's a ways up in front. It all comes down to how much quicker he's running than they are and how aware they are of what's happening on the track. And this is when those course marshals, the corner marshals, and the flaggers, their role becomes so key here. Obviously, in a response scenario, that's huge, but providing information to the driver and waving that blue, letting him know that somebody really quick is on a flyer behind him, and to not impede them if at all possible.
Yeah, we have 23 cars on the track. That's a lot. Here's Alex Westergaard in the Street Mod number 35, and chasing him is one of our Toyota Supra competitors, and that is Brandon Hodge in the number 89 in Street GT. We talked yesterday at length at why the Toyota GR Supra, and all the Supras generally, are really good Street GT cars in this category. That class is built for rear-wheel drive, relatively large displacement cars. They look great, they perform great, they're relatively reliable from what we've seen with PhD Racing and their whole fleet of them. And Hodge right now running pretty competitively at a 35.7. And you can't add a lot of aero to a Street GT car. Unlike in Club TR, you see with Dana, all sorts of aero components on this. And one big thing that his car has that's easy to see is he has a big slide in carousel, and he's going to let Weeder on by. That was very respectful. Dana cut the rear trim off that car. And that's because when you go to a single exit exhaust, that whole rear stock rear diffuser bumper sort of thing acts like a parachute. So you want to cut it out and make sure that you have as little drag as possible from the rear of the car.
Makes sense, absolutely. It's an air brake.
It is. It really is. So it's easy to cut out, so you might as well. Alex Artea, we just saw jump back on track. He is right now second in the Street GT running in this particular session. Fastest of Street not quite the fastest in Street GT. Andy Volkel has gone a little quicker this weekend in his Chevrolet Corvette. But here is Alex Artea. My mom is here spectating this weekend, and she got to go for a ride in this car at Road America last year and did 155 on the back straightaway there.
Whew, that's moving.
It is moving. And Alex's BMW M3, what a great-looking car, by the way. One of the Not Fast Motorsports guys, but he is off pace and moving out of the way. Here comes Dana Basinski. He let Weeder on by. I'm not sure if Dana's on a hot lap or not at this stage, but he got bumped out of the top 10 because, look at Evan Weeder. He jumped into third in Falcon Club TR.
35.962.
And I think that is actually a little quicker than Basinski, yes. So that will put Weeder into, well, he already was third overall in the weekend, so he will stay there now. Basinski had momentarily pushed him to fourth in the weekend standings for Falcon Club TR. And into turn 11 for Dana, right on the front end of that curb. In sim racing, Greg, when I've driven this track in iRacing in particular, I always find turn 11, turning in, if you turn in late, it's game over. You kind of have to make sure that you're in early because the track is kind of a little off camber there. And you kind of end up hitting the front edge of that curb. And depending on how you hit it, it can be kind of unsettling. But looks like Basinski across the line doesn't regain his position over Weeder. So in terms of Falcon Club TR, Davidson, Thorne, Weeder, they stay in that order. We'll flip the top two, rather, in that session. So Davidson, new track record holder in Club TR as we get the checkered on the session.
And you're talking about that corner, and the problem is that, you know, corners, when you turn in and then when they finish a little off camber, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the track surface is tilted away, because it could be that off camber comes over a rise, which it does in 11. And if you are turning in late there, and then you go over that rise, and then you lose that track for a minute, it's really difficult to get the car back to the apex.
Yeah.
So then you're wide from there all the way through. You got to get off the throttle, or you're going to run off the track. So late turn in, not necessarily a good thing in that particular type of corner. Sometimes you want to turn it in a little early, and that inside curb, that apex curb there, if you just sort of clip the front end of that and use that a little bit, that could be a really good target for you because, again, it's one of many turn-in points around this track that are essentially blind.
Here's one thing we haven't discussed at all this weekend that we probably should have mentioned earlier. Track limits. We don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
It's grass and gravel the old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned makes it simple, doesn't it?
I like that a lot.
Mario Andretti had the line of all time about that. He said, if you don't want me to race on it, don't pave it.
Put a wall there. And they did over on the entrance to turn 11. We were talking about that corner. Right before you turn in, you're inches from a big piece of red Armco barrier there. So you have to use every little bit of the racetrack, and that sometimes puts you right next to a wall. So it's real old-fashioned in that way. But I like also for our races, we're going to see GLTC Race 3 at the top of the hour here. We don't have to worry about people running off track and gaining time and that sort of thing. You don't have to worry about people cheating. If you go off the racetrack, you're going to be either stuck or spin.
Yeah.
And while you don't want any cars to crash because of that, hey, you're not gaining time.
Right. You're self-penalizing. And that, that makes it work. And I understand, the circuits that have the big amount of paved runoff and everything, if you have a moment, you go off, you've got a lot of room to save it and straighten it up. But those tracks tend to also promote people over driving because they know, well, there's no real consequence. And in terms of, potential big incident, injury, and all that, it's safer in that regard, but it does when people overdrive. That doesn't eliminate you from taking somebody else out.
Right.
And I remember Casey Stoner, one of the great MotoGP riders of his era. One of the reasons he quit was he said there's no consequence anymore. And he said, and I'm not saying that I want to race on a dangerous track, but if you're racing on a dangerous track, people tend to be a lot more careful when they're around you. And he goes, I'm tired of being taken out by guys who are not as fast as I am, because they just barge in. And so everything has its upsides and downsides. There's the safety factor. But I think it's very telling that a lot of European racers now, they say they love coming and racing in the U.S. because what they use as the phrase is these tracks are old school. There's consequence here, and you better be able to drive.
Yeah, there's places like Watkins Glen and Road America where you're thankful for the runoff when it's there, but tracks like this, you just don't end up in that scenario a lot because you respect the track a little bit more.
Exactly, exactly. And that promotes a little more respect with competitors because you know if there's consequence to a corner, you know that if you clock somebody there, that consequence could bite you as well. And so everybody just tends to be a little bit more drive within their limits. There's nothing wrong with driving at the limit, but if you constantly exceed the limit, that's when bad things happen.
Group C is rolling on the racetrack now, and this is primarily Club TR, street, and some street mod competitors. A couple street GT sprinkled in there as well. One car that we should put a highlight on is Cody Smith in street mod. He's got the number 736. That's an Oldsmobile Cutlass. And I said the other day that if you're at home not competing because you say you don't have the right car for it, you're wrong. Because this guy took a Cutlass that is not a race car by any stretch. Neither is a Honda Fit, by the way. We'll get to that in a little bit. But an Oldsmobile Cutlass, what a weird choice. But I'm glad Cody Smith brings it because it's context.
Well, it's context, and it's a fabulous story, isn't it? And it's just great to see, you know, that kind of thing. You know, whatever car is in your garage, there's probably a class for it here in GRIDLIFE TrackBattle. So bring it out and have some fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's not a lot of limits to what you can do and bring. And there's a good look at Cody Smith in the Cutlass, heading up over the crest at turn number 9.
The other car that I just love here, I mean, obviously there's the cars with all of the big aero work, and you take a look here, he's certainly got that massive wing and that huge splitter on the front. And I can't remember who drives it here, but it's a black Mazda Miata with a V8 in the front, and you see the 4 injection stacks that are popping up to the road. It's just, you know, you look at the cars here, and there's so much you can do and play with. If you're a tinkerer, hello, right here.
This Time Attack is a tinkerer class. It's an engineer class.
What was the car at, it was a Supra, I think, wasn't it, at the festival that had the
PhD
Judd
Supra.
V10 in it?
Oh, no, that was, man, I'm blanking. I should not be. Oh, Ryan Turk.
Ryan Turk,
yeah.
I mean, you know, truly, folks, a Formula One engine wedged into the front of an otherwise pretty much street car was glorious, just glorious. So, I mean, you can, whatever your budget is, and if you don't have a tinkerer's, I was going to make it, if you don't give a tinkerer's damn, get a Sunday Cup, Honda Fit, come out.
That's what DJ Alessandrini's doing while he's working on rebuilding his GLTC car. Meanwhile, Cody Smith into the braking zones. I think one of the places this car will suffer is anytime it has to change direction or change acceleration of any kind, accelerating, braking, or turning. I'm not sure what it does well, but it is somewhat fast.
He's out there having fun with it. And, yeah, it goes like stink in a straight line. And that's, you know, part of it. And that's part of the thing. You know, you take a car that has really old technology, really old, you know, suspension geometry on it. Well, do what you fix it up.
I've heard.
Go ahead, go have some fun with it.
I've heard Tomo talk about driving Matt Williams' RX-7 in Club TR, and he made a comment about you can put aftermarket suspension on old cars, but old cars always just kind of drive like old cars. They flex a lot. They have weird build geometries and that sort of thing, so you can't necessarily take the old out of it, but you can improve it to the point where it's fast. It might just drive a little funky. So in terms of Cody Smith's case, it hasn't slowed him down. Here he goes, a 141.753, pretty quick. Kevin Vo, by the way, in the FRS right behind him, running the FA20 engine that comes in that car, 140.885. Darian Taggart beats him. Ido Waxman up into the mix as Vo runs a little wide.
Yeah, Vo really giving it here and pushing hard, but you know, that's a good point. Obviously, as you said, the old, you know, unless you're going to basically build a super stiff, almost tube-frame chassis and drape an old-style bodywork on it, that car is always going to be what it started as to a certain degree. And there's only so much you can do to stiffen an old car that's been around for a long time. But that's part of the challenge is you get the car as good as it can be got, and then it's up to you. All right, drive it. If it's not good in this section, figure drive through it, around it, whatever you need to do, and get that car pointed straight and let her buck.
Absolutely. So Time Attack Group C underway. Still Taggart, Waxman, and Vo in Falcon Club TR right with each other, all within about a half a second of each other. Some Street GT competitors in the mix. Brad Riemann runs 11th overall. That is a street class car, that Ford Focus RS we talked about earlier. Tom Halka is on track. That is the father of Josh Halka. It's in the number 700 Subaru, down the order just a little bit. And some others to mention, Garrett Glaceri and Piero Pucci on track in an 86, as well as Jeremy Bailey, and Not Fast Motorsports is out on track as well. Into turn 1, here comes a competitor. That's the 523 car. And I don't know this one off the top of my head, so I'll have to look down the order a little bit. 523.
Oh, Mike
Jansen.
Street Mod CMX-5.
Well, he was at the top of the order until Barnes went a little faster in the Street GT car. But running a Miata in Street Mod, you kind of have to do a lot to a Miata to get it competitive in Street Mod.
I would think so.
Done a good job with it so far. Headlights up. This is the opposite of what Grant Walker was doing. Headlights up and open.
Yeah.
Now, if they go down on entry, I think we got to have a conversation about aerodynamics with them a little bit.
Yes, exactly. And it's not dark.
Nope. But into turn 4 now and into 5. One of the great things, you know, Greg, they always say the answer is always Miata to pretty much everything. And while that car has had some competitors over its lifetime, if you're looking for a rear-wheel drive, you know, topless car, there's really no other place to go for joy and the purity of driving than the Mazda Miata. And since 1989, yep. Mazda has been kicking these things out over 4 different generations, and every single one has its benefits.
And it just exceptionally well balanced. I had a chance once to drive one in competition at Blackhawk Farms Raceway, and went out. I got asked to co-drive in an Enduro, and they let me go out for qualifying, not because I was faster necessarily, but just to get a little extra track time in the car because I didn't know it. And I got out of the car. You couldn't wipe that grin off my face because it just did everything well. And, Blackhawk's not a track with long straights where you're going to be going, okay, time this with a calendar. So it was a short enough track where you're constantly busy in it, and that car was just everything you wanted a car to do. It did perfectly.
My first on-track experience ever at speed was in Ultima Raceworks Spec Miata at Road America back in 2020. And I'll tell you what, I'd never driven on a racetrack at speed. I'd never driven a manual transmission car on a racetrack. And boy, was that an experience climbing into a roll-caged car. And they joked in the paddock. I was telling our lead instructor, Ed CZ, about my experience. And I said, what was cool about that one was that it was a real race car. But he heard me wrong, and he thought I said it was a red one. Oh. And it was a red one. But there are still pictures of me from one of our staff photographers, Rob Wilkinson, driving around there. And while that car is real beat up looking and only made about 82 wheel horsepower, you could believe I had the best time ever driving a Miata. They're just such great cars. There's Mr. Tom Halka right now running around the racetrack, and up to 14th overall here at a 142.584 in street class. Another Subaru, which we see a lot of in that street category. It's just a class very well built for all-wheel drive, boxer-engined or otherwise 4-cylinder cars. And again, street, a very common place to see the classic Mitsubishi versus Subaru all-wheel drive battle.
It is. And, going back to what you were saying, one of the cool things about when you're driving a car that doesn't have much power but is really finely balanced is how deep you can brake. And when other people that are, probably carrying 20, 30 miles an hour more than you, they got to get in the binders early. And, they're, braking at the 2 marker, and you laugh as you go by the 1 marker and dive down the inside of them again. Just having, power's fun, but so is nimble handling and lightweight. And you can just really frustrate, people that are driving cars that have a lot of power and weight and straight line speed. But if you can stay close enough to them and then get them in the twisty bits, you can frustrate them and have so much fun with them as the checker comes out in this session. So, if you want to go after a Ferris Khartoumi kind of program, great. And, you have to be able to handle a car like that. You have to be very good with that kind of power. But you can have immense amounts of fun for a fraction of that budget as well, and get out here and just have some fun.
Certainly. Checkered flag out here in Group C. Mike Callaway picks up a little bit of time in 17th place overall, but that's going to be it for our second to last, our penultimate time attack running of the broadcasted weekend here. And we'll be back in about 15 to 20 minutes for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Race number 3. So stand by. We'll throw up the timing and scoring for you for Track Battle Group D. We'll have our Falcon Sunday Cup competitors head out on the racetrack, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes for the other side. Coverage of GridLife Midsummer Meet is brought to you by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. And by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And eBay Motors. Let's ride. And Falcon Tires. The Falcon Azenas RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
At 303, we're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
He saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advance Auto Parts. Learn more at advanceautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Hey, we still on this weekend for a little?
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some.
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting the wedding. She's getting married, so.
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
flies, and we're racing.
Hightower pushes Jensen along the exit of turn number 4. This win, it's
big fly! It's time to go racing at GRIDLIFE Midwest. Hill side by side. O'Gorman around the outside, now for the top spot. Tom O'Gorman goes to lead. 3 wide for the lead.
This is great racing, folks. This is what this series is all about.
The twists and turns of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course have posed a challenge to all 50 of the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup competitors here this weekend at GRIDLIFE's Midsummer Meet. 2 races and a qualifying session and a top 10 shootout are down and out for the weekend so far, but 2 races remain, Greg. Race number 3 is up here shortly with a 50-car grid, the top 10 set from that shootout earlier in the day.
And it was a really compelling shootout session. And after Tom O'Gorman finished 4th in that race that established that shootout, it, sort of a combination of 3 minor issues that all contributed together to not have him have a very good race. He came back, he rebounded nicely, putting the car back on pole. He's had so many of them this year. I think this is maybe his 12th pole. It's just unbelievable. But the guy that I really think has a shot at this is Jeremy Swenson. If he can get in front of Tomo, that Corvette has been fast, and it's staying quicker a little longer than we've seen it in the past. If he can get out in front, open a little gap, have O'Gorman have to chase him, and then be able to drive clean but defensive, he might be able to do something here.
It's going to matter. The run down to turn 4 is going to be absolutely critical. Swenson hasn't won a race since Coda earlier this season. I know it's on his mind. It's bothering him. I know he wants to get it done. It's worth kind of mentioning the rules for the starts, because we haven't really talked exactly what starts the race. In some other series, when you come out of the final corner, the leader can kind of choose in a zone, thinking, NASCAR or IMSA or that sort of thing. Here, we don't have any zones. When the green flag comes out, everybody can go, everybody can pass. There's no waiting on the leader. So Jeremy, while you would think he has an advantage, being on the front row alongside Tom with that engine, and you'd think maybe Tom would have a jump because he can decide when to go. Well, he can't. It all comes down to reaction time when that green flag drops from the bucket over by turn 3. So the run down to turn 1 is critical. Tom in the past has always said that starting alongside these V8 cars is hard because they launch so well. But recently, with the adjustments we've had this season, the V8s and the 4-cylinder cars kind of run the same speed until they're past 100 miles an hour. So it might look like Jeremy has a slight advantage going into turn 4, but then Tomo on those brakes might outbreak him.
Well, and that's when I was talking to Jeremy, he said that's exactly what they've been seeing this year. Is he said, we used to be good coming out of the turns relative to them. He said, not so much. He said, those lighter cars can roll more speed into the corner, but they're also now on par coming out until they hit that 100-mile-an-hour note. So it's odd that Tom's in a 4-cylinder car up against a V8. He may, though, still want to bring them up a little slow. So to keep Jeremy from getting to that 100-mile-an-hour a long ways before getting into turn 4. Does that make sense? Where Jeremy then would have an advantage to maybe scoot clear. If Tomo can bring him up a little slow, stay with Jeremy, then those brakes are going to really come into play here. And with Tomo on the inside going into 4, if Jeremy does out-accelerate him, then Tomo, smart move, tuck him behind him, get a little toe, go to the outside, do the Paul Tracy move around the outside into 4.
Let's talk about lane choice also.
Yep.
The race pole sitter gets the choice of what side of the racetrack they go to. Now, here's what's different, and I had a misunderstanding earlier in the weekend. In other series where you can choose the line that you restart in, NASCAR is a good example of this. The pole sitter can choose their lane. Everyone else behind still goes for the first corner, left to right, left to right, left to right. Well, our first corner is a right-hander here, not the actual turn 1, which is a left-hander. So Tom will likely choose the right and put the odd-numbered cars, first, third, fifth, 7th, so on the inside going into turn number 1. There is an argument to be made that driver's left isn't a bad place to be. If you can keep a slight advantage through the first right-hander, turn 5 is a pretty tight left. You can get past the race leader and then have control of the line. So maybe the right side isn't the, that might be the obvious choice, but it might not be the only one.
I absolutely. And the other side of the coin here is, Jeremy with that heavier vet, if he gets up on the outside and gets trapped a little bit, or conversely, if he ends up pinned to the inside, the guy that's starting third, which would be right behind Tomo, is Robert Thorne in a BMW M3, which is also mega on the brakes. So Jeremy could find himself frozen out if he doesn't get to the front by the time they get to 4. So there's all kinds of things to play for that's coming up. And we've got the guy who won the previous race, James Houghton, starting in the 4th spot. So there's just an awful lot of machinations that could unfold here.
Certainly. Cars rolling off. Let's roll the starting lineup here and talk about our starting positions for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 3. There's row number 1, Tom O'Gorman again on pole this season alongside reigning champ Jeremy Swenson in his 01 Chevrolet Corvette for Viking Performance.
Row 2, Robert Thorne in that BMW I'm talking about, the number 180, joined by James Houghton in the number 41 Acura TSX, already a winner here this weekend.
Certainly. Row number 3, Andy Smedegaard and Luke McGrew, they'll start alongside each other in 5th and 6th. Andy the 212, Luke in the number 7.
And starting in row 4, Aaron Lichty will start in the 7th spot in the number 19 Porsche Cayman, alongside the number 90 of Matt Walbaum in the Honda S2000.
Starting in row number 5, Erica Till in the number 82 for Hybrid Racing. Rob Manicherry for the winning Formula starts in 10th on the outside of row 5.
Starting in row 6, Emil Tab, always a front runner in this championship, but his number 14 Miata, joined by Ryan Upham, who has really been quick this week in the number 13 BMW.
All right, Pervez Randelia rolls off 13th in the winning Formula FRS, and Jackson Jensen, who has had a heck of a weekend, starts 14th. We're going to tell you a story about him when we let the rest of the drivers scroll across the bottom of the screen. Well, we call him Maverick, Greg, and that's because, one day I saw him walking around at COTA with a tank top on, his fire suit tied around his waist, and wearing a gold chain and sunglasses, and he, I didn't know yet that he was also a licensed pilot.
Yeah, and he just has that air about him, doesn't he? But he has proved one of the things we were talking about earlier in the event, that if you have a problem in that first qualifying because of how everything structures, then it will follow you through the entire weekend. On his way to the grid for the first race, for the first qualifying session, he had a big problem. They had to do a massive thrash, change the tires. He goes out, gets a time, not a great one, but got a time. He has been, from that point on, absolutely ferocious in what he's doing, working his way through. He got into the second race, had a time that was good enough for 19th. Now he gets up there, finishes high enough. He's now starting 14th, which is about where we would expect him to be. But it's been hard work for him to get back to where he should be because of one little problem in that first qualifying session.
Yeah, so again, you're fighting back all weekend long, and Maverick will roll off 14th place, and he will actually start a row ahead of his father, Eric Jensen, in the LS Swap FRS. That's the black and yellow and orange car, right of your screen, right behind Colton Wade. There's another driver that's had a fantastic weekend in the field's Auto Works number 18. Colton Wade, again, he just drove through the field after having an issue in race 1. He's up to 15th place to start this race. A great starting spot.
That's phenomenal, and he has so upped his game, his program, but also his personal game from last year. He has really been, in a way, one of the revelations of this season, I think.
He really has. He has had a big improvement this season. That team is supporting him, and it's all coming together very, very well. Your last couple of rows scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Matan Rosenberg, by the way, was kind of beached in turn 13. That was because he had a broken hub that fell off, and with some help from Emil Tab in the winning Formula and Brofab and Thomas Moss, they got the parts and pieces and parts to fix that they needed, and they are now on track and rolling. Paul Curley, his problem is fixed. He is back ready to rip for race number 3.
Yeah, Paul will be starting back in the 46 spot, in the number 5, so he's got work to do, but that car is fast. He's going to be somebody we'll be tracking up through the field, that blue number 45 Corvette. But here we go, and it looks like Tomo has chosen that right side for heading into turn 4 once they get that green flag. And what Tomo is going to want is, if, as I said, starting there, he wants Thorne right on his 6 going through there to freeze out Swenson a little bit. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, it's
racing. Have all these great plans, but
this is a K24 inline 4-cylinder, essentially out of a Honda Civic, racing a V8 Corvette that's been detuned. So these are very unlikely competitors to be side by side, but we see it all the time in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. That's the mantra of this series: power to weight, clean racing, clean driving.
And look at that. You can see Swenson has a nose ahead just a little bit there as they're coming up. He understands the game. Believe me, he's done this enough times.
Here we go. Green flag, and Tomo didn't get a great start. Swenson did. We're racing at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Running down to turn 4. We're 3 wide in the middle and the back of the pack, and Swenson leads the way into turn 4. Tomo late on the brakes. Swenson has to leave space for him. He will, and they will work their way through madness now. Swenson still has the top spot, almost clear, but can't do it.
And this could give Tomo the inside line into 6. Tomo's really quick through here. He has to make sure he doesn't track out and run Swenson off. Still side by side in this battle for the lead. It's not over yet.
This is such a critical point for Swenson, but I think Tomo's going to get back by him here. Swenson drives around the outside. Can he hold this? Around the outside of O'Gorman. Still side by side for the lead as Thorne watches them battle ahead.
GRIDLIFE Touring Cup action at its best, folks. How do you like this? Swenson still. He's got the inside into 11. Tomo will now have the inside through the carousel. Finally clear Swenson.
Half a lap it took for O'Gorman to clear Jeremy Swenson in the Viking Performance Corvette. And look at the speed he gained mid-corner, just throttled up and drove away. Now Swenson has to run him back down.
And that's the agility, the lighter weight of that S2000. Mid-corner out, that car really flows speed. And Tomo into the lead. This is not what anybody wanted to see. I mean, he was a half second quicker than Swenson was in qualifying, but that's qualifying. This is racing. Tomo back on Kumo tires, 3 new ones and a used one because of that broken wheel, and a look there to the inside. Was that Houghton?
Yeah,
He's
Houghton.
gone around on Thorne.
He was taking a look at it. I don't know if he completely got it done. Look at this, still 3 wide in the background now as we head down the back straightaway, some side-by-side. I think Catil working his way. Oh, that was Emil Tab, rather, past the Silver Vet. I think that was the 527 to Jackson Jensen. Here comes Swenson.
And he's up into that power band that he likes. That car comes alongside now, though, into the brakes. This is where that Honda S2000 works. Swenson just has enough for overlap, so Tomo cannot.
Whoa!
Big rotation.
Wow, huge slide. O'Gorman gives them plenty of space, almost too much. They're still door-to-door through turn 6. They will not give it up, and Thorne is watching the best show of the weekend out the windshield in the number 180.
Yeah, I think Tomo was very generous there in the space he gave because he wasn't sure whether Swenson was going to spin, and I think that's why he gave him all that room. Now he's got to try and clear him again, and Swenson is not going to make that easy. He's still outside.
A battle of epic proportions at the front of the field at Mid-Ohio in GLTC. Swenson still trying to get it done, but he can't do it here. And now Thorne sees an opportunity, but Swenson slams the door shut.
And I think that's exactly why Swenson said, look, I don't want to be outside and get trapped here by Thorne going through that long right-hand carousel. So he checked up, tucked in to make sure Thorne didn't get any kind of a jump through him.
On the front straightaway again, completing our second full lap. A wiggle from Tomo, a rare mistake. Can Swenson capitalize on it heading up to Keyhole?
That's a great save by Tomo, but it did scrub, as you said, that little bit of speed. Thorne still right there. Houghton, Smedegaard, McGrew, everybody in that mix. Lichty taking a look at Walbaum going into the Keyhole.
Good racing in the background. Jake Jorenstad was door-to-door with somebody here. Now backstretch again. This is the Corvette's wheelhouse. Still nose to tail for the top spot. The top 5, a little bit of a gap back to Luke McGrew in 6th. Then Walbaum, Lichty, Catil, and Manicherry. And again, O'Gorman protects. Rinse and repeat from 1 lap ago.
Yeah, he's always going to protect that inside. If Swenson's going to do it, Tomo wants him to go around the outside. And every time that Swenson runs these outside lines, he's putting more load onto those tires. Now he tries the over-under, but Tomo covers that. And this is the first time Tomo's had a little bit of clarity.
Whoa.
Coming out, and again, Swenson lights up the rear.
Trying something different. Look at this, right to the rear quarter panel. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So he tried something different that time. It almost worked. He almost got overlap on Tomo.
You got to get a little bit of creative right now. There's no question about that. And sitting in that 5th spot right now, it's Smedegaard who's up the ante just a little bit. And I think Smedegaard was able to get through on Houghton, and as he did so, he may have set fast lap of the race.
Yeah, look at this, through the carousel again. And you can definitely tell that Tom doesn't have a clear advantage this time through. In some areas he does, but the story flips when you head to the other side of the racetrack. It's a tale of 2 different race cars here.
Well, and the interesting thing is the last lap, remember, into turn 1, we saw Tomo have that little bit of a extra rotation at turn in. Well, he's starting on 3 new Kumos and 1 used one. The tire you probably want that on, the spot would be that right rear. Guess where that's loaded its most? Turn 1.
Houghton defending. He's lost a couple of spots that last time around, so he must have made a mistake. There's Jackson Jensen, Pervez Randilia behind him. They're just outside of the top 10. This time through, there's a little bit more of the gap from Swenson up to O'Gorman. 3rd place, though, Smedegaard is closing in on Robert Thorne. Here he comes, teammates battling down the backstretch.
And Andy, if he could stay to the outside, I mean, that BMW is good on the brakes, but Andy is really good on those brakes, too. Look at that, matching him. He just stay where he is. Now he's got the inside here and flows a bit more speed. Thorne tucks in.
There's a battle behind them as well. Catil and Lichty were door-to-door at turn number 6. The Porsche Cayman and the 82 Civic of Catil. They're still side-by-side at the bottom of your screen behind James Houghton coming up over the crest. But Smedegaard through into 3rd place and now tries to set sail to catch Swenson and race leader Tom O'Gorman. That gap is not getting any bigger. While O'Gorman had an advantage on the backstretch, it's gone now.
Wow. I'll tell you, this is one of the things that's been impressing me this weekend is Swenson has figured out a way to really keep the tires alive on that Corvette longer than we've seen, longer than we may have anticipated. And that's allowing him to keep Tom very honest. The other guy that's on the move is Walbaum. He started back in the,
Car off in the gravel. That's at turn 9. That is Andy Sundin. Get it rolling, buddy. There you go. Keep it going. Get the momentum. Nice work by Andy Sundin.
Kept it, and if he joins safely, we don't have to go caution. That was brilliant. Well done. And once again, it was a number of laps ago now, but whoop, somebody else off a number of laps ago. But we had 50 cars take the green flag on a short track, and nothing untoward happening on the opening lap.
I think that whoever kicked up that gravel continued. I didn't see what car it was, but they are straight and continuing now. 5 minutes remaining. O'Gorman leads Swenson still, but not by very much. And Swenson just aching for a victory. Look at this battle again. Lichty and Catil side by side down the backstretch. Cayman versus Civic. We saw this last year. We get to see it again.
Just great stuff. And as I was saying, Walbaum had started back in the 8th spot, and he has dispatched Lichty and ran down McGrew. So they're having a good scrap, but this one is superb. Still side by side.
Classic battle. These two raced in the very first GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race. They fought each other for the weekend victories. Now they run down in 8th and 9th place, but they're still having the battle of their lives. Here comes Rob Manicherry and Emil Tab from the winning Formula. 3 winning Formula cars behind Eric Catil right now.
That's a 4-car battle for 8th. That's pretty fun and impressive, isn't it?
And not over yet. Again, very different. Almost 1,000 pounds. Well, maybe not quite 1,000. 800 pounds between the Civic and the Cayman right now. Very different strategies on how to go fast. Mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, front. Whoa! I hope this isn't Matan's car again. That looks like a Miata wheel. If that is the same part again, what an unlucky time that would be.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Have to see who that may have been as we go back and pick up this ongoing battle here. There is Coutil.
Oh, this time it is one of the Myriad Motorsports cars. That's on the inside of turn 8. And
looks like it's off the right side of the car.
Oh, he's climbing out of the car, which isn't generally advised unless there's, what's he doing here? Well, you're not really supposed to get out of your car unless there's fire, so hopefully that's what that was for. That might bring us full course yellow, unfortunately.
It could.
That's ill-advised unless there's a full course or a reason to do that, which would be fire in the cockpit. And down the backstretch, we run with under 4 minutes to go.
And if we, caution at this stage and, a cleanup, that would pretty much
that
scuttle.
would end it.
That would scuttle this race. If it had happened a little earlier, Swenson may have thought, okay, I can use that. I'll let those tires cool a little bit, because he was able to attack on Tomo in those first few laps pretty handily. But right now, Tomo has it. It's not much.
Well,
what is it? 2 car lengths and half a second margin.
Well, that car is pulled off to the inside of a corner, and the driver has gone away from it.
Yeah.
So we might be able to get the rest of this race in.
Yeah, it'd be an awkward, weird moment for another car to get there. So they might just let this go. And that's what Tomo would love to see, because he's been able to eke out something of a margin here over Swenson. And then Smedegaard about 1.2 back by himself. Then Thorne now under attack from McGrew, with Walbaum not far adrift. Then the biggest gap, and it's because these guys have been side by side so much with Coutil and Lichty that they're just slowing each other down relative to that group out front. But it's been fun racing to watch.
It has been. They've sorted out a little bit here at the front. So let's look a little deeper in the field and see if we can pick up any more battles. The one with Catil and Lichty is now complete. Lichty has passed Eric Catil and pushed him back to 8th place now. A little bit deeper on the bottom of the screen, there is Catil now under pressure from Emil Tab, who's gotten by his teammate Rob Manicherry. So that was for 9th place. A little bit of side-by-side heading into Keyhole as well, as we work our way towards what I expect to be the white flag lap.
Yeah, and James Houghton has now dropped back to 11th, and Eric Jensen has passed his son and picked up 12th, with Jackson now 13th, Randelia in 14th, and Ryan Upham. I was surprised. I really thought we'd see Ryan move forward a little bit here, and he's actually lost a couple of spots from where he started. Am I seeing some smoke out of Thorne's car?
Yeah, a little bit of smoke, and Luke McGrew has reeled in the 180, and here he comes. Battle between the M3 and the Corvette for 4th place.
And you said we should, you'd think, be seeing the white flag this time through. There's Walbaum, and then that big margin now back to Lichty.
And he's putting a gap on Catil as well, so Lichty is getting well clear. So McGrew and Thorne, that might be our best battle towards the front of the field now as we come into the carousel for what I expect to be the white flag lap. No confirmation yet. We could go another. Again, there's no set time or distance here. It's just a guesstimation as we come across the start-finish line. And this time we get another one. So
one more run. Love it.
2 laps left at least.
Thorne will be ruining that a little bit. McGrew will be delighted.
Yes, he will. Into turn 1 now. McGrew chasing Robert Thorne. It all comes down to the straightaways now in the slipstream here.
See if he's able to do anything up into the keyhole. McGrew got a decent run through there. He's going to look. Just can't get in as deep as Thorne did on the brakes.
Whoa, Thorne, a little slip up there at keyhole.
Yep.
They closed in on each other. And look at this. They have just been so close this entire race, but not volatile enough to watch. This one, however, is Thorne and McGrew, only 3 car lengths apart.
We had Smedegaard had set the fast lap in the race not that long ago, so you wonder if he's going to be able to find that speed again and close it up in these last 2 laps. He still has fast lap at a 35.96. But again, everybody, the finishing order from this sets the lineup for the last race, and right near the end of this race, we should get word on what the inversion's going to be. They never publish it till after the race, so somebody can't drive to the inversion. But it'll be interesting to see at this point.
Tell you what, Swenson gained a little bit on Tomo that sector through.
Did. Well, and I mean, you know, with that one older tire, in any, you know, I mean, turn 11 there, that's one of those right-handers where that right rear takes the load, and we're guessing that's where that older tire is.
Across the start-finish line this time through at Mid-Ohio. There's the white flag. 1 more lap to go at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. O'Gorman and Swenson, they've been dueling this entire race, and Swenson's got 13, make it 12 corners now left to get something done.
Now, its best opportunity it should be down into turn 4, but he might be able to surprise him somewhere else.
He's close. If he can just stay close through Keyhole, he might have something for him here this time. A slip by both, and now the run on the back straight. He's close, got a good run. Can he take it all the way to the front, though?
He's got a couple of car lengths here, and he's going to have to close up. And it's going to have to happen, as we said, when he hits that power band.
There it is.
There it is, exactly.
You can
right
see
above
it.
The start line.
But he's not close enough. Oh, there's the overlap. Can he get it? He's there, side by side, overlap for a moment. Tomo leaves a little bit for him, but not enough to jam the Corvette down the inside.
Yeah, Tomo left him room, but it was a dissuasive amount of room.
Oh, look at that. Big dive up turn 6. He tried to spook him, and Tomo didn't take the bait.
Yeah, sometimes you can surprise somebody in 6 there, and Jeremy said, well, that's my shot. The only other opportunity might be is if that right rear slips up in 11, and Jeremy just straight lines up underneath him. We'll have to see what happens
here. We go, not over yet.
No, he's close.
Turn 11 coming up, left-hander here. Tom O'Gorman won race 1 last night. Had some issues in race 2, is trying to claim his 15th victory on the season, holding off reigning champion Jeremy Swenson, and Tomo will do it again. 15th win on the season, and Swenson, a hard-fought battle, continues to edge his average finish closer and closer to 2nd overall all season long. Swenson, Smedegaard, Thorne, McGrew, your top 5. Then Waldbaum, Lichty, Catil, Tab, and Manicherry will be coming across the line here shortly.
Boy, Thorne had to really be driving the wheels off of that BMW to stay in front of McGrew. McGrew really has that new build Corvette working, doesn't he?
He certainly does. Eric Jensen across the line. Son Jackson following a couple positions back. And the rest of the field now coming across the start-finish line. Some great battles and a little bit of dramas there. A couple cars going for a ride. Of course, we saw the wheel come off of somebody's car. I'm still not convinced.
It was that Myriad car. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I mean, interesting.
Why would he have popped the hood?
Right.
You know, and here's something. We don't know what the inversion's going to be. But if it's top 12, 11, 12, 13 in that range, after all the struggles he's had with Jackson Jensen finishing 12th,
man,
he could end up on the front row. I mean, that's one of the great, the vagaries here are so fun.
All right, let's have a look at our race results here for GLTC race number 3. And as we've seen a lot of times this season, and 10 times in the last 12 races, Tom O'Gorman gets it done. Jeremy Swenson second, Smedegaard, Thorne, McGrew, Waldbaum, Lichty, Catil, Tab, and Manicherry. Inside the top 10, the only driver that fell out was the number 41 of, where did he end up? James Houghton.
He dropped. He was falling down the order pretty significantly.
So he's got some problems.
Yeah, he was 11th with about 2 laps to go.
Well, there's a look.
There he is, 23rd.
Yeah,
so
some issues there. Ryan Upham, 15th place. Jake Jornstad, 14th. Matan Rosenberg up to 22nd. Not bad.
Great drive from where he was.
Great climb. How about Paul Darling, 24th? An excellent drive for Paul. Julio Crispin, Preston and Sarter up a couple positions. Dustin Barty, 29th. Chris Adams, 21st, by the way. A good run for Chris. And then looking down the rest of the order, here's some drivers that had a little bit of trouble.
Paul Curley's problems apparently reappeared because he just back in 46 once again.
Yeah, not the way that they wanted to end this weekend. And unfortunately, the invert doesn't apply to everybody. It's only the top X number of drivers.
And it's a random invert up to 25% of the field, right?
It is a random invert of the top. It could be up to the top 25%, but yet to know exactly what that invert will be. Wow. We'll find out.
Whew, I'll tell you, each race we've had so far, I mean, the first race, Tomo owned it, controlled it. Second race, we had great battles. We had a battle for the lead. We had a battle for third. We had a huge battle for the fifth spot. And in this one, we had a battle for the lead for the entire race. That was just superb. Swenson really has that purple people eater Corvette working well. I say that because he's a Viking fan like I am.
Yeah, and again, Swenson, he did such a great job. He did almost lose control at turn 5 one time. It's a little un-Jeremy Swenson-like. Typically, he drives with a pretty big margin. But Tomo, by the way, deserves credit for leaving a little extra space there in the moment of need. And they had an amazing fight. They were side by side for 3/4 of the first lap, and then they did it again the next time around.
Yeah, it was truly spectacular racing. And again, Tomo, very generous, because I think he thought that Jeremy might spin. And if he spins and then scoots across like that, right where Tomo is, so he really opened the arc up, which allowed Jeremy to stay back on the outside through 6. So, and then when Jeremy, almost surprised Tom and dove down to the inside of 6, and that works if the guy hasn't started to turn in already, because if he's turned in, he's committed. So I will see. Just couldn't quite pull it off, but boy, he threw everything at Tomo in that one. And give Tomo some credit here. That's about as much pressure as we've seen him under, and he had to be absolutely mistake-free on that, and he was.
All right, Eric Cattill's on pit lane with Creature. We'll send it down.
Should I be like this? What's up, guys? I'm here with Eric Cattill. Man, that was an epic battle. Tell me what went down.
I gotta scooch up a little bit because I'm sitting too far back.
yeah.
No, it was awesome. Man. Let's see you there. And I'll be back. Basically, I wrecked my car last year, and this is the brand build first event. And I'm glad to be racing against Aaron again. Me and him just had a great battle last race. Absolutely. The car's doing pretty good. Not quite front running pace, but I'm just happy to be out here having fun with the track family, having good with all the winning.
Heck yeah, man. Glad to see you back out here. Eric Till, number 82 on the car, number 1 in your hearts. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Creature, and great job for Eric Cattill. And as I mentioned, getting to race Aaron Lichty again. Both drivers in different cars than they were 4 years ago when they kicked things off here in April of 2019. But reliving an epic battle from a couple of years ago when the series started. We're 113 races in at this stage. So
yeah, there's some of the real veterans in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, aren't they?
And veterans in the GRIDLIFE paddock in general. And again, both cars that they're running are builds specifically for this series. Both their previous cars were cars built for other series that they adapted. So they've both fully committed, and they've been, staples in the series ever since. But that's going to do it for us for the afternoon broadcast. We'll be back with you again a little bit later in about 2 hours' time. We'll fire back up again for one more round of track battle on broadcast and one more GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race this weekend. Greg, it's been a pleasure to be with you, but we're not quite done yet. We'll have a little bit more.
Man.
Oh, we sure do.
Love it.
We'll see you there. A couple hours later, we'll check back in for Track Battle A and GLTC Race 4. Coverage of GRIDLIFE Midsummer Meet is brought to you by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. And by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And eBay Motors. Let's ride. Falcon Tires. The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
At 303, we're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
He saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advanced Auto Parts. Learn more at advancedautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Hey, we still on this weekend for a little...
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some...
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting... the wedding. She's getting married, so...
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.